Hello again. This horse came in for carriage driving training, but first I needed to go back and do groundwork, elevating his trust and reducing some fear issues as, whoa, he had been trained as a dancing horse and had a lot of fear issues. The owners had done quite a bit of work with him, which I could tell, but I don't want to go through carriage driving training until the horse is clear on basic groundwork and the interacting with people. Right there, I'm working on having him understand moving from touch. So if I use touch to communicate, like please move this, I'm not only showing him and making it easier for me to ask him to step over, but I'm also introducing him to the idea of let's go do something together with touch. And right there I moved quickly, and you can see that he said, oh my goodness sakes, that's really fearful. He's a kind horse. He just has quite a bit of anxiety and fear issues that are very real. And so with horses, they can either react or they can think, because those go through the same pathway. So I want to lower the reaction and raise the thinking. One of the ways I do that is right there. I lifted my hands and he reacted. So I wanted to explain to him that it was okay that I lifted my hands. I'm not going to hurt him. And I might have to explain this to him many, many times, and I have to be prepared for that. Now, right here, again, I'm trying to show him, I want you to understand that I'm going to make requests of you using touch. And he hasn't been taught this, which is not horrible. It's, less utilitarian. Not only do they learn to move together with touch, there we go, but you can start using this as a method of replacement. Where touch before may have been fearful, now touch begins to have meaning. I'm also introducing to him moving his body in isolation so that he begins to be able to articulate the shoulders and the haunches separately from one another, and hopefully stepping backward. Now right there, I was shooing some flies away from my face, and he found that, a little alarming. So again, I say, yeah, I'm going to make movements like this, but I'm not going to make those movements at you. That's another concept that the horse can learn is I am putting my intent towards you, or I am swishing flies away, and I want every horse to understand the difference. He's still pretty distractible as a young stallion, and that's not surprising, and it's not a problem. It's kind of fun for me to go back and look at my work because I was chatting with Shelby while I was doing this, so that's why I'm doing a voiceover. Now, this is the first time I'm introducing these things to him, so I want him to have a concept, not necessarily perfection. Let's flow that way. Yes, isolate the shoulders. Look at that. You did great. Because he keeps his head quite high, and that's not just because he's a Friesian, it is kind of the alarm position. And so I will be glad to see if he will relax his neck a little bit. Because we're observing everything. How fast are their feet moving? How fast are their reactions? How are they holding their neck? How is the expression on their face? How is the expression in their lips? Everything. Where is their attention going? Are they able to focus on me, or do they have to look away? So much is happening. Now, I know that as a dancing horse, they probably would have tapped his legs or tapped him to get the energy for them to dance in place. And so I wanted to fairly quickly bring in a stick of some kind to start doing some replacement. It's very difficult to tell a being, don't fear this. What I would like to do is say, not only do you not have to fear it, but I will talk to you through it. I will connect to you through it. So I tossed the string over his back, and I'm just going to keep it neutral. And a lot of this I'm observing, kind of how deep does it go? How committed is he to this idea of the anxiety of a stick, a string being connected to me? So, and now he's walking, so that's an improvement, but his neck is still pretty high. So I'm getting to know him. I'm getting to know how he's going to process. When is he showing me that he understands? So right there, I gave it a test. I drew the string down and I tossed it back over, and he went, whoa. And that time, not quite as much. So I can't teach if I'm not willing to listen. Because if I'm not listening and observing, then I'm just doing things at him. I'm not teaching him or interacting with him. So there, I like how his legs are starting to slow down. And there he had a little bit more of a reaction, especially when I was tossing it over his hips. Again, I want to keep this at a low-ish emotional level, because if things get too out of hand, if his emotions run too hot, too high, too fast, he's not going to be able to learn. Right there, I like that walk. That looks more like a thinking, considering walk, like, she's different. What's different here? Aha! And the neck came down a little bit. There, that's what I'm looking for. Noticeable changes that tell me I think I'm starting to understand at least part of this concept. Good. And that's what I need. For any horse, why would I want to interact with a being who fears me, especially a great big one? I want to interact with beings that say, well, I may not understand it right now, but I probably will. That's what I'm looking for. And when I get to my favorite point, that is, I do understand it. Now, right there, I asked him to yield his hip, and that's part of the replacement. Okay, the stick isn't dangerous, and it may ask you for a request. So I lightly tapped him on the hip to say, can you move this away from me? So it not only is not hurting him, it's actually asking him for something. And that helps push out the fear, because he has to think, what is this request? That's one of the better ways I've found to help them understand. And that's the first time I stepped back out of his space to let him think, and he actually followed me a little bit. So, whoa, golly, okay. So I have to be willing each time he has that little bit too big of a reaction to re-explain, 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 find a way to do some replacement, and help him come to a place where he doesn't worry about it. I don't know how much time that's going to take. I really don't.